Sideline Sports, joined by Eric Wilson, Jon Shearer. Jake's not here tonight. He's actually at the Ranger game. Let's go Rangers tonight so he can see a win. And we got a very special guest tonight. We got Lee Steinberg joining us. Welcome to the show, Lee.
Thank you.
So let's start. One of the things that fascinated me, we were at the Super Bowl this year, me and John. We got the opportunity to go out there. We were online, I believe it was Thursday morning, to get our day passes. And in line, there was Lee Steinberg, about 20 people or so in front of us. And I'm looking and I'm like, this is the NFL. If they don't know who Lee Steinberg is and he's got to wait for a day pass, that just amazes me.
One thing, if I ever say you have my permission to shoot me, is, do you know who I am? That will never leave my lips.
Well, I love it, but I was like, I'm looking, I'm like, wow, I'm in line with Lee Steinberg. That's pretty cool.
You're too funny.
So another thing that I've seen, because we follow you on Facebook, you have your Lee Steinberg book club, and we had a great guest, Randy Grimes, on last week, who wrote a book on recovery. Are you going to have that in your book club eventually?
Yes. So what I wanted to do was put a community together of people who still understand that, like, a book is something you hold in your hand and you turn the pages, and it's possible to read and garner more information. So I wanted to have a place where people could interchange what they liked about new books and reading, and sort of talk about what it is that they're driving from the book. And so I've been gratified. We have 2,500 people, but I haven't really put it out in public. So, but I think finding people who share your same values is critically important in life.
Now, another thing that I noticed just this week, I see that your son just started a podcast with Dave Stevens.
He did. My two boys suffer from retinitis pigmentosa, which is an eye disease that starts with night blindness and eventually leads to a narrowing of the visual field to the point where the older one is legally blind and my middle son is getting there quickly. So the question with John was, okay, you've had this indescribable loss, so you can rage about it and why me, and that I think you should do all that and expiate all that anger. And then at the end of it, it's what can you still do? What activities can you still derive enjoyment from? And he's been very aggressive in seeing sites across the country or having them described to him, and going to movies and going to concerts and going to athletic games. So I'm really proud of the fact that he's used this setback to spur even greater energy and to drive a whole bunch of fun in life.
So Lee, quick question, if you don't mind just giving us a little bit of an update, how's the podcast going?
It seems to be going great, and John has the deep mellifluous tones and speaking voice that his father wished he had, and but he's very good at it. He does another podcast called Living in the Sprawl, which is about things in Southern California, restaurants, tourist attractions, hotels. It's sort of his review of specifics and then the whole ambience of Southern California.
Wow.
That's great. I'm going to have to definitely check them out. Now, one of the things that we were talking about before the show was the Major League Baseball lockout that just ended. So looking at it from an agent's perspective, how does the deal affect the players?
Well, the first thing to say is that process of collective bargaining needs to be started much earlier, and it needs to stay hidden, if you will, from the public, because you're not going to get a whole bunch of sympathy from fans in the midst of a pandemic inflation, high gas prices, because millionaires and billionaires can't settle something. So that never should have led to a lockout in the first place. The players weren't actually asking for more money, they were asking for better distribution. And in baseball, you have a situation where when Mike Trout was MVP of Major League Baseball, he was making $700,000 when a utility infielder was probably making $18 million. And that's because the whole structure is age oriented. For the first 3 years of a player's career, the team can pay him the minimum, notwithstanding his performance, and then years 4 through 6 are arbitration, and then after 6 years, he can become a free agent. So it has much more to do with age than raw performance, and the players were trying to get a higher minimum and then to let players go to arbitration earlier. And but again, this ought not to have played out. The one thing to never do in professional sports is to cut off your game supply. One of the reasons the NFL is so dominant in the United States is every game has been played since 1987. So all the focus is on the action on the field. None of it's on labor hassles.
So would you venture to say that the Major League Baseball Players Association is probably one of the best PAs out there with regards to the 4 major sports?
They are the strongest because they have a history of winning. They've got a player base that is together for all those 6 months of the year. So they've got unity. The older players inform the younger players of what's happening. And, as opposed to football, where people have shorter career spans, the season is shorter and compacted. If you strike in baseball, 4 games is 1/40th of the season. It's a 25% of the football season. And it's just a different temperament. We wouldn't confuse football players with the advance guard of the Bolshevik Workers' Party, storming the Kremlin, right? They're coaches' sons. A lot of them are born-again Christians. A lot of them, there's a much more conservative group.
Makes sense.
Now, one of the things that's happened recently in sports, and you look at like the Aaron Rodgers situation, Ben Simmons, where you have athletes that are saying that they want to be traded and, changing the way the teams have to maneuver and, the GM and everything. So as an agent, what do you do with your client when they're not happy? How do you prevent it from getting that way? Because once it goes in a situation like that, I think both the player and the team lose.
So the best way to get traded, if a player wants to do that, is to say nothing publicly, nothing. Because when they talk publicly, the whole world of their sport knows that this team has damaged goods, and they don't offer very much in fairness in a trade. And so by putting your team in an exposed situation, it makes it harder to trade somebody because the value is just not there. And because other teams figure, well, just wait, he won't show up or he won't be there. We can get this maybe without any trade cost. So what you want to do is, first of all, try to work it out with that team and see whether or not you can create a rapprochement with the front office or the coach or see what the problem is. And because players covet stability, so you'd rather have the player stay where he is unless there's no commitment to winning or they just are not utilizing him correctly. And then you would go very quietly to team personnel and talk it out. And if they agree, they might give the agent in that situation permission to talk to other teams quietly and see if you can put together. So broker, in essence, a trade. And that's a better way. See if you can work it out in the incumbent place. And then if you can't, do everything behind the scenes.
So the old school adage of silence is golden.
It's platinum here.
So we have a question actually from someone in our chat here, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on this. Asking the question, do you think social media is ruining sports when it comes to deals and rumors?
There's so much competition now to produce sports content 24/7. I mean, go back to the days where there were no computers, there was no social media, there were 3 television stations, right? The information didn't flow, and you would see it after the announcement was made. But now there's a hyper competitiveness to be Adam Schefter, to be one of the people who break stories and get scoops. And remember years ago, there was a writer who kept writing that that we were close to a renegotiation on Troy Aikman. The other paper, there were 2 papers in that town. The other paper kept saying we were close, and he called me up and he said, "Don't we have a good relationship? Why are you letting me be scooped by the others?" I said, "Well, it's not true. We're not close. It's just not true." He says, "Yeah, but I got to write something." And I said, "I just told you this wasn't true, okay? But I got to talk to my editor." So yeah, it's having it can actually change the outcome based on something being leaked or something, because we're in a very oral profession, and you have to be able to trust someone else's word. You see these deals coming out of free agency, no paper's been signed, right? We'll announce the deal without cables going back and forth and everything. It's an oral profession, so quite commonly we'll announce. So if you break the other side's confidence, and even if what they're reporting isn't true, there's such a competition for scoops and to be first and show your editor, whether you're electronic or print, that you're well connected and ahead of the game.
Now, another situation this season, came with Tampa Bay with Antonio Brown running off the field. So, as an agent, what's your responsibility with a player where they're in a horrible situation? What do you do to help your player and try and salvage his career? Because obviously Antonio Brown's very talented, but how can you step in and help somebody like that when you're representing him?
So the first key is to profile prospective clients so that you are getting people who have a strong work ethic, who understand that they have the ability to be role models. We ask them to retrace their roots to the high school community and set up a scholarship or work with the church or Boys and Girls Club to go back to the university and bond with the alums and set some sort of program up, and then set up a charitable foundation. So you're going to get self-starters that way. So the first thing is not to represent a player who would walk off the field in the middle of a game. Having said that, damage control consists of wrapping your arms around all the facts so you understand exactly what happened before you say anything, and then getting out there quickly and making some sort of statement. In this case, an apology. I understand I've got a responsibility to stay with my team and that I'm a role model and I failed, and I want to apologize to Coach Arians and the Tampa Bay organization, all of my fans. And then if you can tag to that some behavior that shows there won't be a recurrence. So the drunk driver is going to go to AA. The person, what Antonio did, anger management. He's going to go to an anger management class, because if you don't combine the apology with some affirmative action to prevent it from repeating, then it's not very sincere. But that's what you would do. And then behind the scenes, you have to go quickly to that coach and general manager, because that player crossed the third rail. In other words, you can be mad at a coach, you can yell at a coach, you can express your discontent in any way you want to. You cannot leave your team behind and walk off the field. You just can't do that in sports, and it's team sports.
Now, Lee, so whenever an agent and a player, for example, have a little bit of a disagreement on, say, what the contract details should be, how do you compromise and work that out? Does the player come first whenever it comes to how that works, or do you both work together to figure that out?
You educate the players. So in a veteran negotiations, it's all about comps or comparables. You try to find players who are in the same age group, are in the same performance group at the same position, who are similarly situated. So you explain that market to the player. Then you have to make sure you explain the cap and how contracts can be structured to give more money to a player, but not cost the team so much. So that's generally signing bonus is preferable, because all salary counts against the cap, where signing bonus is amortized over the length of the contract. So you have to do education, and then lay out some potential. This would be ideal. So that's one level of deal. This would be outstanding, and this would be take. In other words, all else failing, we're going to take that deal, as opposed to being away from the sport. So you have to educate, and because it's ridiculous to ask for something totally unrealistic.
Right.
In negotiating, you're trying to create a win-win situation, where I've looked into the heart and mind of the general manager. I see the world the way he sees it, and I can construct something that maximally compensates our client, but gives the team what they need.
Makes sense.
Now, in your years of negotiation, who has been the hardest team to negotiate with, or GM that's, preferably somebody you don't work with now, because I don't want you to burn any bridges, but,
So in 1987, 1992, 1994, 1995, and 1999, I was blessed to have the first draft pick of the Cincinnati Bengals. And their negotiator was a man named Mike Brown. And I had some of the roughest negotiations ever, except in 94 and 95, I had the first pick overall in the draft, and that was Dan Wilkinson and Kajana Carter. And in those cases, it was much easier, I think, because one of them went to Ohio State, which is Mike's great passion in life. But I have this premonition that if I started representing athletes, Mike Brown would be the commissioner of the moon.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's.
So wait, you said 92, 94, 95, and 99?
87, 92,
87. Wow. Okay.
99. So, it's God's way of telling me I've been too successful.
Now, when you're working with clients and after they retire, do you still have a role in their business affairs? And if so, what does an agent do once a player retires?
So what you try to do is identify what other skills and talents a player has. And in the first visit to my office, I'll say, so suppose you broke your leg tomorrow, or you, for whatever reason, couldn't play anymore. What areas interest you? What other skill sets do you have? So the first thing you're trying to do is get a player to learn how to network, how to go into a banquet, how to go to an event and collect cards, have 5-minute conversations, follow up afterwards, You're doing that through the community charitable program. You're doing that at the university level. So you're surrounding that player with a supportive network of mentors and people that can help him. Second of all, you're using the off seasons to try and establish a bridge to second career. So I would tell players, for example, from the San Francisco 49ers, can you think of any businesses or industries adjacent to Santa Clara where you train that might be of interest to network in? Well, high tech and venture capital. So it's not by chance that Brent Jones has a $4 million hedge fund, the retired tight end that he put together. Steve Young also runs a fund. It's encouraging that. So that should lead you with a plan that you've already done into second career. And then you're trying to help the player transition and open opportunities. In some cases, like I did Troy Aikman's first 2 contracts with Fox. There came a time where he needed someone who specialized in that. So you're trying to remain involved. Hopefully they have a functional charity. So like a Duron Cherry retires from Kansas City and he now owns the Anheuser-Busch distributorship. And then I introduced him to a man named Wayne Weaver, who's buying the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he becomes one of the first minority owners, former players of an NFL franchise. And we did that with Warwick Dunn and Ray Childress also. So the answer is yes, you're trying. My job is not done until a player successfully transitions into second career and has a fulfilling life.
That's awesome.
Wow. So definitely setting them up for success. That's huge. So, Lee, I got to ask you, if you don't mind sharing, can you name some of who have been some of your best clients? Some people that you have just loved to have worked with throughout your historic career?
Well, I went 23 years with Warren Moon. And
Okay.
we had the struggle at the beginning of his career because there was a certain feeling within certain parts of the scouting and executive fraternity that an African American didn't have the intellectual tools to play the position of quarterback. And it's hard to believe now that was there ever, but it was. And so he went to Canada for 6 years. And when he came back, he was the first total free agent in the NFL. Nobody had rights, and he had 3 leagues competing for him, and he signed the biggest contract overall. And he asked me to present him, which was a great honor, as his presenter at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And he became the first African-American quarterback in the modern era to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, and is a great role model for other people. Steve Young was a really unique experience. Troy Aikman was a unique experience. Bruce Smith, the all-time sack leader, he and I went a long, long career together, and now he owns part of a construction company and one of the great hotels, Mandarin Oriental in Washington, D.C. So they were all great, and currently we've got Patrick Mahomes, who can play a little bit, and we've got Tua Tagovailoa, the quarterback of Miami, and
soon to be the backup, but we won't discuss that tonight, John.
And then Taylor Heineke, who's quarterback in Washington, and a variety of players.
And Lee, so we had the opportunity, me and John, to be at your Super Bowl party. Now, a lot of people don't realize. Yes, a lot of people don't realize, all the parties that are the week of the Super Bowl, and your party is a mainstay. This was our first year going to the Super Bowl, and first thing I looked up when I looked up Super Bowl events, your parties come up, and all the details, and everyone I've spoken to, you got to go to Lee's party. So what was your passion for starting it, and how do you come up with ideas each year to make it better?
So that was our 35th year. And you start with the concept of the venue. You're looking for somewhere iconic that people would want to go anyway. So in Tampa Bay, we put it in Busch Gardens 1 year, or we put it out on a boat. In New Orleans, on a white river boat 1 year, Jazzland with all the Mardi Gras another year. The last time the Super Bowl was in Los Angeles, I put it in 20th Century Fox's back lot, which was the set of Hello Dolly, which was old New York. So this year I wanted to do the same thing. So we put it in Sony Studios, where we filmed actually part of Jerry Maguire, and we put it there. And then, so the concept was, is there an antidote? Is there an alternative to the noisy, crowded, dark, boozy Super Bowl party where you don't have a chance to meet anybody, see anything, or really network at all? And so we do several things. One is I have a brain health summit every year to deal with the issue of concussion. And we have neurologists speak out, and we're looking for prevention, awareness, and cure in the concussion area. We do humanitarian awards to a player and owner for philanthropic things they do off the field. This year we had a brain lounge, which had hyperbaric oxygen and stem cell and a whole bunch of modalities that can help players heal quicker and be healthier. We had we always give to a charity, and this time it was the Lantern Network, which is for inner city kids who want to be business people and mentoring them. So the Super Bowl, if you will, is a convention of Americana. It's big business, big politics, big sports, big entertainment, all coming together. And so we try to combine those groups and make it so you walk out having lots of new friends and you learned a little bit. You know, we have VR setups. So the first thing is venue, and then you're looking for food and music and everything reflective of the culture of that city. And then a big venue, and it's a daytime party. So you can walk around, and we like plenty of things to do. So we had Spider-Man running around, and the Wakanda from Black Panther. They had some very stern women who forced me into custody, and between the two signs, and we had music for movies, and so hopefully you got that whole experience. And then next year we go to Arizona, where we've done it at a dude ranch 1 year, the Science Museum another year, and we took over the botanical gardens and had greened everything up for the environment. And the governor, Napolitano, came, and we released an endangered hawk into the wild.
Wow.
Cool.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Well, Lee, I want to thank you for taking the time to come on tonight. We definitely appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy, especially with NFL free agency in full swing right now.
You know, the funny thing about free agency is the best players in the NFL never get to free agency. So it doesn't operate the way it does in baseball or basketball. In basketball, LeBron James, Dwayne, I mean, the best players in the sport become free agent. Never happens in football. How many talented quarterbacks? I mean, Kirk Cousins was an exception, but how many times do you see a talented left tackle or quarterback or the key players? They either have their contracts extended far beyond when they would come up as a free agent, or in the cases where they really can't agree, they'll tag a player, put a franchise or transition or something on it. So what happens is the only supply is not the A+ players, but B+ players end up getting A+ contracts because they get the advantage of competitive bidding. The only time teams have to compete against each other, and they're the big supply.
It's interesting. I never looked at that, but that makes sense thinking about
Neither
it.
have I. I thank
Completely
you for
right.
educating us, Lee, because I never even gave that an ounce of thought.
You're not going to get Kevin Durant, the equivalent of Kevin Durant or LeBron James out there, or Kawhi Leonard. That,
Year after year in the NFL, that's not going to happen.
no.
It's an
Yeah.
aberration when it happens in the NFL. Like Tom Brady,
Exactly.
that's an aberration.
Hey, Lee, real quick, I just want to take a moment and thank you for sharing your son's podcast here, Living in the Sprawl, hosted by Lisa Lowe and your son, John Steinberg. I think that's amazing. Definitely, everybody, make sure they check that out because
It's so nice of you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Lisa Lowe is his fiance, and they're getting married on Saturday.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Congratulations. So on top of being an agent, you've got a wedding to plan for. So
Right.
we're going to let you.
They say God created the concept of time so that everything wouldn't happen at once, but I find that to be violated every day.
Well,
Hey,
you're always welcome back here. You always have a
Yes.
place on our show. We know you're a very busy man, and thank you very much. I want to say thank you. It's an absolute honor to be able to get to speak to you and just have a little bit of your time. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you so much, Lee.
Yeah, thank you, Lee. We're going to take a real quick break, ladies and gentlemen. More with Sideline Sports in just a moment.
Connecting your brain and body with interactive games and tests. Why is there no physical activity in today's health physical? Trazer is an holistic technology used to rehabilitate, prevent falls, and improve sport performance. Trazer reports provide you, your clinician, your physical therapist, or athletic trainer objective data to make decisions on your health and performance over time. Measure what matters to change your game. Take the Trazer Challenge. Confidence, growth, connected by Trazer.
Welcome back.
Whew.
That was a lot of information. I
He's
felt like I learned
amazing.
stuff. You would think, we talk about sports all the time. I mean, did you ever think about the free agent thing? Because I never did it. And it makes sense if you. No.
No, he's completely right. I mean, you never see. I mean, Tom Brady, like I said, was an aberration. Aaron Rodgers didn't hit free agency. Russell Wilson didn't hit free agency. Like these guys don't hit free agency. He's right. It's the second tier guys. It's never, you know what I mean? Like it's never those top tier guys where it's like 10 or 15 A plus guys just chilling on the market and everybody's bidding. Like, you see in NBA or whatever. I mean, I never really thought of it that way, but it's true.
It was definitely interesting. But speaking
Love
of
having
free
him
agency
on,
and the NFL, yes, that was a lot of fun. I love Lee. Speaking of the NFL and free agency, what's going on? I mean, first of all, let's start with probably the biggest story in the NFL right now, which isn't an NFL story, but it is. Deshaun Watson's not getting charged with any criminal, any crimes with the whole scandal, the whole sex thing. So where's he going? Who's going to take the chance on him? I mean, what do you guys think?
I mean, there's a lot of teams that have already been spoken for. So, I mean, the window is getting shorter and shorter as far as available teams. Now, we have heard that Carolina and New Orleans are making heavy pushes on him. I know that Cleveland was supposed to be in talks with him. John, I think you were the one who mentioned
at 3, yeah.
Today, 3 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, Haslam was supposed to meet him personally in Houston.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, they're really going to give up on Baker.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not saying that Baker was that good last year, but
they're not getting to the Super Bowl now in the AFC without an elite quarterback. They just aren't, especially after how the AFC is loaded. Like, they have to compete with a quarterback. They can't do it. They can't beat the Bengals and the Ravens and the Chargers and the Chiefs and the Broncos and the whoever you want to say with all these quarterbacks. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying any of those teams are necessarily winning the Super Bowl, but if you're going to beat those teams, like, you got to have a quarterback. You can't just have defense and a run game. Like,
No, of course.
it's too loaded.
I'm fascinated with the amount of moves that have happened so quickly. I mean, how does Russell Wilson end up in Denver? Really, in Denver?
Because that's where he wanted to go, apparently. The deal made sense, and for him, it was like, you know, when a guy is throwing rainbows like he throws them, now you got the additional altitude to help you out. I mean,
I don't think that's how he ended up in Denver. I think he ended up in Denver because the Broncos whiffed on Aaron Rodgers, and they said, well, Aaron Rodgers is staying with the Packers. Guess what we're doing? We have to immediately go and get plan B, which is Russell Wilson. That's what I think happened. I think their ultimate plan A was Aaron Rodgers. I think that's why they went and got the head coach they went and got, the offensive coordinator from the Packers. They were doing everything in their power to go and get Rodgers. And when it came out that he was staying with the Packers, they're like, all right, the window's closing on us getting any sort of quarterback to compete in this division. There's not a lot out there now that Rodgers is going and Brady's at that time retired. We have to go and get Russell Wilson right now because he's our plan B. And it worked. That's how I think that went down.
It's an interesting plan B. And then you got the Cowboys, you know, trading Amari Cooper. Like, if you're a Cowboy fan, that's got to infuriate you. You know, they went all out to build the offense. Cooper was their premier receiver. I get that the cap space is a big issue. I understand you don't have cap space, but he's a big part of their offense. How are you going to go?
You can't say they don't have cap space when they gave that bum all that money at receiver. Michael Gallup, he's always hurt. He doesn't produce. He doesn't do anything. And they gave him a giant contract after trading away Cooper for basically nothing. Come on, man. Like,
listen, as an Eagles fan, let them all go. Start over. I'm a happy man right now. Cooper's gone. Cedric Wilson is gone. What's his name? Randy Gregory.
Gregory. Oh,
first
I
said
love
yes
Randy
to
Gregory.
Dallas, and then did the okey doke and said, "No, I'm gonna go to Denver."
That was pretty cool.
So
that was great.
Listen, whatever.
Randy Gregory, you need to send Eric a Broncos Randy Gregory jersey so he can wear on the show to stick it to the Cowboys. So you need to do if you're listening to the show.
Just I will definitely we will put that out and tag Randy Gregory because I do not wear anything but Eagles green. But for this, I'll make an exception. You want to pull the okey doke like that? I'm in your corner, man. So I mean, listen, but we had this conversation last night, John. We were talking about money versus legacy, and with the whole Davante Adams situation.
Mm-hmm.
And, I still feel like, even though I have seen his tweet and he's like, I do love number 12, but he feels somewhat slighted by the fact that they tagged him
did you see what happened with Davante Adams today?
I have not, sir.
So they offered him over $23 million per season, and he turned it down today. He declined their deal.
What?
He wants 30. He's not budging. He wants 30 per season, and he's not backing down from that. He feels insulted by the franchise tag. He said before Aaron Rodgers even decided, he said, I want 30 per season. Whoever gets me, they're going to pay up. Paraphrase him, but it's basically what he said. And he's not backing down from that. And I mean, I can't knock anybody that wants to get paid whatever they want to get paid. Whether you get paid that or not, I don't know, but I never knock anybody that's trying to get whatever money they're trying to get. Like Dak, when Dak was trying to get his, I didn't agree. But at the same time, I was like, you know what? Like, if you can get that money, you do it, man. Your window is this big. Your window is this big.
Quarterback getting paid.
Any
I don't
player.
Get a receiver asking for $30 million. That's just, to me.
No, I'm not saying I necessarily agree with that tag, but I'm saying any player that's trying to get their money, whatever it is.
Oh yeah, no,
you do you, man. If you get
is the market though? Is the market right now for wide receivers? Is that the asking
not
price?
Not even close.
Okay,
not even close.
All right. So let's think about it this for a moment. Davante Adams, granted, top wide receiver in the league. Some would say the best wide receiver in the league today.
Highest paid is Amari Cooper at 20 per year.
Well, he's definitely worth more than 20. I'll say Devontae
I'm just
Adams.
telling you.
No,
Amari
you're
Cooper's
right.
the highest right now. So
I would say he's definitely worth more than 20. But for Devontae Adams to ask for 30 and the market's not calling for 30. If the market was calling for, let's just say 26, and he
Right.
said, well, give me 25 or give me 26, I'd be like, okay, but that's a pretty significant increase. And again, I'm very much like you. Okay, if you can get it, go get it.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. But 30 million?
I'm
For a
looking at
receiver.
it and I'm saying to myself, if the market's not calling for that, you got to show me more than just your ability. I need to see your pedigree. I need to see your history. And I'm sorry, yards, the yaks are great.
You
The
better start
wins
giving
are
me a
great.
couple of those Cooper Cup type seasons if you're going to get 30 million as a receiver.
What
Yeah.
does
I'm
Cooper
just
Cup
saying.
ask for? What does Cooper Cup ask for if we give him 30? 60?
No,
I mean, come on.
no. I mean, I would say Cooper should be in line for about 25, 26, in my
Easy.
opinion.
Oh, easy, without a doubt. But I'm saying if you give 30 to Devontae, you got to give more to Cooper after his year.
No, Devontae's a better receiver. Cooper Cup's great in the slot and stuff. I like Cooper Cup, but I mean, he's not the receiver that Devontae Adams is. Cooper
Okay.
Cup isn't, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
there's no knock to either guy, but Devontae Adams is a number one. Cooper Cup
Different
is
skill
like
set.
Cooper Cup's like a, you know what I mean? Like a 1B.
He's a number one on that team.
He's a number one on that team, but he's not the guy that's going across the middle, the guy that's lined up on the outside. He's the guy in a slot, and he does great there. You can make a living there. This is the new age NFL, but he's not like Calvin Johnson number one. He's not DeAndre Hopkins number one. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah, no,
he's not,
I feel what you're
I
saying.
hear what you're saying, but number wise, I mean, I don't know.
I mean,
I'm
one
just
season.
saying-
You remember
okay.
one season of that, because Raylan did point it out to us a while ago that there's only one season of this from Cooper Cup. Everything else was about 1,000, maybe 1,100. So nothing crazy until Matt Stafford, the guy you hate,
right?
came.
That's what I was just about to say. Thank you for pointing it out. Matthew Stafford came, the guy I'm not a fan of, and all of a sudden Cooper Cup's the greatest thing ever. So we'll see this
Triple
year.
Crown winner. Yeah, I mean, you win a Super Bowl. I think that speaks about. I mean, to me, any position skill player outside of the quarterback who wins a Super Bowl, your stock, in my opinion, automatically goes up $3 million.
The two single greatest receiving seasons in the history of the NFL, Cooper Cup, Calvin Johnson. Both quarterbacks had Matt Stafford. Both guys had Matt Stafford at quarterback. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It is.
It's ironic. And I give Stafford credit. To this day, as much as I was hard on him all year, came through when it mattered. Even though he had 7 chances, he still came through.
I had to apologize, and I've done my apology tour with Matthew Stafford. So I've said what I've said, and I'm moving past that. But he has my respect because of what he was able to do with Sean McVay and that entire offensive squad. But I still say that defense, Aaron Donald, Leonard Floyd, Von Miller, Jalen Ramsey, even though Jalen called out, Jamar Chase, and that's another conversation for another time. I'm not even going to get into that, how I said what I said about Jamar Chase and Jalen Ramsey as well. But for Matthew Stafford, you know what? You hit the nail on the head, JB. Or John, you said it. Calvin Johnson had Matthew Stafford. Cooper Cup had Matthew Stafford. If Matthew Stafford and a wide receiver can get together and form that chemistry, it's on and popping.
Yeah, listen, I'll take my medicine with that.
Yeah,
he earned my respect. That's all I can say. Dom, if you're listening, he earned my respect.
Speaking of guys who have something to earn this year, can I ask y'all about Christian Kirk? Because I was a fan of the young stud, but to get the money that he got to go to Jacksonville, I mean,
why would you want to sign with Jacksonville if you're a free agent, right? Are you taking just money, or are you taking?
I don't
money
knock
and
him
winning?
for that because you get to go play with Trevor Lawrence. Like, that's pretty good. You know what I mean? Like, that's a pretty good quarterback to get to go play with because there's a lot of potential in that young man's arm. There's a lot of potential.
And you have a winning coach.
Yep.
Who has won a Super Bowl. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And he can walk in and flash that ring, and people have got to respect it because he did it with a backup quarterback. Let's remember this. He didn't do it with the guy who was on an MVP level, who is now the quarterback of the Washington Commanders. He did it with Nick Foles. Now, granted, all the other pieces that were around him, you had Zach Ertz, you had LeGarrette Blount, you had Torrey Smith, you had all the weapons. Then you had the defense with a Malcolm Jenkins and a Fletcher Cox and a Brandon Graham. I mean, don't get me started because y'all already know I can go down the whole entire list of my team. But Doug Peterson was the guy to get this team bought in to what he was selling, which ultimately turned them into Super Bowl champions. So as much as I'm not a fan of the contract that Christian Kirk got, like John said, if him and Trevor Lawrence, again, going back to that quarterback wide receiver combination, if they can form that chemistry, Christian Kirk might surprise us. But again, and I have to go back to, I think, what either John or Ray Lynn said last night, nobody else was willing to pay Christian Kirk that money. And then all of a sudden, Jacksonville was like, okay, we'll take him. So I'm like you. I want to see, what did they see in him to offer that contract?
He's good, but I don't know.
I mean, he's never had 1,000 yards in his season. In a day and age where it's not that hard to hit 1,000 yards anymore. It used to be like a landmark. Yeah, they added an extra game. It used to be like a milestone. Now it's like, okay, you hit 1,000 yards. Like, that's nice. But he has never hit 1,000, and this guy is paid higher than Stephon Diggs, paid higher than Mike Evans. He's getting paid more than Cooper Kupp. He's getting paid more than Tyreek Hill. Like, he's getting paid more than all these guys. And what has he done? Like, I'm not knocking him for getting his money because, again, everybody should get theirs. That's how it is. You got a short life. But I'm knocking the Jags for paying that because, like I said last night, you were bidding against yourself. Nobody else was in the race. Nobody else said, "Oh, we coming for that kind of money for Christian Kirk. You better pay up, or else we're gonna get him." Nobody else was in the race. So you're sitting here and you're like, "Oh man, here come the Browns. They might get him." Like, you were bidding against yourself, like pretending like there was other teams in the race, but nobody was. And you're like, instead of paying this guy like $12 million a year or something, which would have been okay, like, hey, let's just throw the world at this guy. Like, what? It makes no sense at all. Like,
and just remember, there's no state tax in Florida. So
yes. And I'm sure that's something we should ask Lee about, thinking about it now. When a guy is negotiating with different teams, depending on the location, do you guys take that into effect? I didn't think of that. Great point, Eric.
Yeah. Florida, Texas, that's why you see some of these players, they go to these southern states because ain't no state tax down here.
No, so, and imagine playing for an LA team or California team where the taxes are ridiculous.
Yeah, I feel you on that one. So JB, I do have to ask you because you've been gone for a minute. I got to ask you, man. We've seen so much done in free agency. What's been your, outside of Christian Kirk? What's been your biggest surprise thus far?
I'm actually going to pick a trade. The Bears traded Khalil Mack. I think that was a great move. He was hurt a lot the last couple of years. They're not winning this year. Get rid of him. Save the money. Get some draft pick and some equity back. You're not going to win. He hasn't been able to stay on the field. Do something smart. And I really love what Denver did, getting Russell Wilson. Let's get him a fresh start. Denver's got a pretty decent offense. I think those are two really good trades for both teams.
So, all right, I can get you on the Denver trade, but are you saying the Khalil Mack trade as a businessman, or are you saying it as a fan?
Or a fiance?
No, she was very upset.
Okay, all right. I
Really?
wasn't sure.
I think it was. Listen, I love Khalil Mack. He's a dominant player when he's on the field. How many games has he missed the last 2 years since he's been in Chicago? When you look at that, if he's your dominant defensive guy and he can't stay on the field, that's like Saquon Barkley of my Giants.
Yeah.
Great running back, but he can't stay on the field. What good is he? I love the guy. When he plays, he's magic. But if he's not playing and you're not winning anyway, get rid of him and get what you can. Build the team.
Yep.
What about you, John? You've been all around, up and down. I mean, we've had so many calls and so many shows here on the Sideline Sports Network. And so what's been one of your biggest surprises?
I think it has to be the teams that are losing, the Cowboys and the Patriots. Patriots have no idea what they're doing. They just gave up one of their linemen, one of their best linemen, for a 5th-round pick to help Tom Brady. And they they let J.C. Jackson walk. They didn't do anything to get him back. That's your best cornerback. Like, that guy's – he had 2 monstrous seasons in a row. You just let him walk out the door. Like, you don't have a replacement for him. So, like, the Cowboys and the Patriots, especially the Patriots, to me, it's like, well, what are these teams doing? Because these are teams I expected to be making smart moves, to be active in free agency. And both of these teams so far, if I had to grade teams on, in their free agency, both of these teams are 2 of the worst so far in their off seasons. I mean, it's not been good for either team. Now, the Cowboys could get Von Miller. There's talk again that DeMarcus Ware today has been recruiting Von Miller, and Von Miller's been putting emojis back as replies to DeMarcus Ware's posts, I believe, on Instagram. So, and he's been posting Instagram posts himself with cowboy hat, like those 10-gallon cowboy hats or whatever. And Micah Parsons has been making interesting tweets himself with the little eyes as well. So it all seems like it's already a done deal with Von Miller going there, it feels like, but I know you don't want to hear that. So that might save the Cowboys from this okey-doke Randy Gregory thing. If that don't happen, I think Cowboys and Patriots, man, like those 2 teams, they ain't going to the Super Bowl. They have no chance if this is how the rest of their offseason goes.
For me, it's just I'm still wrapping my head around the fact that Carson Wentz is back in the NFC East with the Washington Commanders. Like, you had 1 season in Indy, and whether this is true or not, I saw I don't know if it was a meme or just a picture of how Frank Reich was apologizing to Colts ownership for bringing in Carson Wentz. And, I just find it a little, I'm still, again, another head scratcher for me. Like, what would make Carson come back to the NFC East? What did Ron Rivera and that coaching staff see in him to be like, Tyler Heineke is not our guy, even though he has produced and has stepped up in moments? I didn't say he was successful, but he has at least stepped up. He didn't get blown out against the Bucs 2 years ago.
Right. I'm listening. I'm not judging. I'm listening. I'm not judging.
He was in the games that he was in. I think he just needed more of an opportunity. But you take that away from him, and you're bringing Carson Wentz into a system that we don't know if it's going to fit. Now, that defense, we know if Chase Young can get right and the rest of that team on the defensive side of the ball can hold up their end, possibly Carson and oh my goodness, I had his name and I just lost it. The wide receiver,
McLaurin,
Terry McLaurin. Thank you. Yeah. But then we're also talking about the running back situation. Like,
they still got Antonio Gibson.
Yeah.
They're
an interesting team, Washington. I don't like them on paper, but they produce. It's kind of weird. They're not great. They're not horrible.
Yeah.
They're just there.
And it's funny because, like, if they would have waited a couple more days instead of getting Wentz, they could have been in on this Watson sweepstakes. Like, you know what I mean? They could have thrown their hat in on the Watson sweepstakes, right?
They could have.
But I mean, instead of Carson Wentz, but
it fits right in with Dan Snyder or that culture.
No comment. No comment.
I'm
I ain't
pleading the
touching that.
fifth on that one. I'm not even going there on that one,
Ooh,
JB.
JB, you're not going to reel me in with that one.
Nope.
I ain't a sucker.
I done fell for okie doke one too many times this week. You ain't going to get me on that one.
So just an update, Kyrie ended with 60 points on 34 minutes, so that's going to even 150 for the game against the Magic. 150. Wow.
I'm glad I didn't go to that game. As media, I probably would have walked out myself.
You would have got to see Kyrie Irving play and drop 60. You would have been like, damn, I got to see Kyrie Irving play.
I've seen Kyrie drop 40. I've seen James Harden drop
60.
50. I know.
60 is pretty impressive. 41 and a half is pretty impressive.
No,
you're
absolutely.
I'm thinking they put the foot off the gas and he only got 60.
Probably.
I'm thinking he could have got a lot more.
Kind of like Cat last night. When he got 60, they're just like, all right, that's it for you. That's my
Yeah.
assumption.
The games of having 80 point nights are, I think, few and far between.
I mean, it's not like you're going to wear Kyrie Irving out because he doesn't play home games. So
Right.
just,
You play in
What do
halftime,
you-
so get you
Are
a
you
flight.
reading my text? Are you reading my text? I sent that to my friend when he told me what was going on in the game. I was like, well, he's well rested. He's he's going.
playing 48 minutes doesn't
Yep.
matter. It's like playing half of a
Exactly.
game.
It makes no sense. Like, good for him. When he gets 60.
Yeah.
I like
shout out
Kyrie.
to Manscaped and Score No Score app, our sponsors. Shout out to Trazer for everybody just, riding with the Sideline Sports Network family. We got a litany of shows. So
And National Scouting Combine.
yes, the
Not
National
forget
Scouting
them.
Combine. Yeah, that was
Love
an
them.
amazing, amazing time. And, shout out to Jimmy, Uncle Jay, no relation, Scott, Chad, the whole entire crew. I mean, they really know how to do it right, and the opportunity that these young men get to be out at the combine, it just to see not only the athletes themselves, but to see the other organizations, the CFL, the XFL, WWE was out there, the bobsled team, rugby. They're giving them so many opportunities to be successful. So it's really, really a great thing. And a shout out to them. And of course, to you guys for getting Lee Steinberg. This was an amazing, amazing interview tonight.
That was that guy.
Yeah.
That guy.
A lot of fun. I'm glad Lee was able to do it.
Yeah, that guy.
Thank you guys. Listen, there's a lot more to
JB's the
come.
magician behind the curtain.
There's a lot.
He's the Wizard
a
of
lot more to
Oz.
come.
And John's the crazy man. We know. Just don't show up. Just don't show up with no shirt on, John.
I thought about it tonight. Honestly, I thought about
don't do that
starting
to Lee.
without a shirt. I was like, I wonder how Lee would respond if I wasn't wearing a shirt.
Don't do that.
Don't
John.
do that to Lee.
I thought
Please
about it.
No, don't do that.
He may have
Don't do that.
laughed.
Hey,
Oh,
shout
yeah.
out to our man. He might not let me back on the show, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Shout out to our man, Jake Malik, chilling at the Rangers game. Look at him.
Oh,
Look how happy the brother is.
Nice.
I had to put that on there. Like I said, he may not let me back on the show after doing that, but I'll take my lumps.
So,
Fellas,
Eric,
this has been awesome, man. Thank y'all for
where can
having me
everybody
back
find
on. You can find me Monday and Wednesday nights, Sports Arena, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Sideline Sports Network YouTube page and also the Twitter page and my own Facebook page. Season 3, Alex Fleming's NFL Carousel. We got some stuff coming up for that. And then, of course, whenever these two gentlemen up here need me to be a part of the flagship show, I'm always ready and available. A lot of good stuff with the Sideline Sports Network family. At Twitter, at Instagram, at EC Wilson76. Much love.
And John?
I'm going to throw a curveball now that baseball is back. Instead of talking about myself, I'm going to talk about the sports arena you're going to want to check out. You're going to want to check out the NBA Carousel. Mondays, there's NBA Carousel and Sports Arena. Wednesdays, Sports Arena. Thursdays, the Sip-Off. You have the Gauntlet on Saturdays. You got the Play Callers on Friday. I mean, you got all kinds of
Squad Pod
shows.
on Tuesday.
Yeah, Squad Pond. I mean, you got all kinds of great shows. Just check out the Sideline Sports Network. You want to check out all these great shows because it's not just us four that are here. There's a bunch of other great people that are so great at their respective jobs. So I want to shout out, not myself, but them. They all do a great job. So please don't just check out me and everybody here. Check out everybody else all throughout the week, Sunday through Saturday. We even have an old school basketball show called Basket Bros on Sundays, Sunday nights
Love
as
the name.
well. So I
Love
love
the
it.
name.
Tyler Ingram came up with that. Sunday through Saturday, we literally have shows every day of the week. Then we're on what is it? We're on
DB&A,
Quantum Star,
Quantum Star.
DB&A. Check them out as well. So I just wanted to make sure I give
Everywhere.
everybody love.
We're infectious. We take over. Don't forget about the Inscriber magazine. Listen, we got the Believe show coming back. We're just all over, guys. Listen, forget about us right now. Follow at Sideline Sports 1. Subscribe to the YouTube if you're not. Those are the two most important things. You'll see all three of us and Jake and everybody else on those pages, and you can find us there. I think that's it, guys. I'm out.
Let me real quick. Let me do Jake Malik. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, IG. Make sure you follow everybody here as part of the Sideline Sports Network. Have a good night.